Hi, Arrow.
You too. You too. You too. You are taking something that seems to be appearing in the headlines almost every day, and you're putting it in a podcast where those that are victims and those that are lost are getting a place to finally just locate a place. I mean, it could be peace. It could be, it's something. And I don't know how to explain how you affect me with this podcast.
Really? Well, thank you.
How did you become so truthful, transparent, and open? Because I do a podcast called The Choice, and it is all about bringing the soul forward. I mean, come on, you guys really talk about some serious stuff here.
Yeah, and it's not a comfortable topic either for a lot of people. And I did struggle for a long time. Do I want to put this out in the world? This, something that's so personal, but it just started building and building and talking with some of the other women and having empathy for them and different things. Like there could be a 15-year-old group of girls hanging out saying, oh, I just listened to this podcast, who this sounds like, Mr. So-and-so or Mrs. So-and-so. It's kind of a cautionary tale, I think, for a lot of different people.
The listeners need to understand a Georgia teacher is living a double life, and something totally out of nowhere takes place. I mean, to face that wall, I don't understand where you found your strength. Was it spirituality? I mean, how did you rebuild, or are you still in that process?
It was so traumatic, and I had never really experienced anything that big before. I think I'm pretty intuitive, so I knew I needed to reach out and get help in different ways. And what happened was I almost feel like I've grown so much more from this experience.
Yep.
They say a lot of times, tragedy or something bad can kind of enlighten you and wake you up a little bit. So, it's still a struggle to rebuild, but I'm excited about life again.
Yeah. For the two of you, the one thing that I've learned in the 10 years that I've been a podcaster, and that is that it's not about your city. It's not about your country. It's about how you're bringing it to the world. I mean, and what you've done here is you have said, hey, look, this happened as a nation, as a generation. Let's grow.
Yeah.
100%.
Who do you how do you have meditation involved here? I mean, because
oh, yes.
Even I'm sitting here just having a conversation, and I know what your podcast is about, but I don't want to spoil it for the listeners, but they need to experience it.
Yeah, I got really lucky working with Glass Entertainment because we were given space to really take this journey together, and we were so collaborative, and we all had the same convictions about what we wanted to share. So I think that really helped things because it was cathartic. It was healing. I think it was healing for some of the other women that we spoke with. And I think it's gonna wake some people up out there that hear this.
You think? Oh my God.
Yeah.
You can't help but sit there and listen to each of the 8 episodes and not think of your own community.
Oh,
right.
Yeah. I mean, I live in a small town. Like it's, walking distance to Main Street. So this whole town was affected, which is, it's sad in a way, but they also were here and they lifted me over the finish line of every day for the first couple of years that I needed it. So I think there was a reason. Maybe I ended up meeting my ex-husband again and moving to Georgia. Just to get here in a place that was, just so great.
That's so interesting that you say that because I escaped the state of Montana because of things that were taking place up there that I couldn't control. And I think maybe that's the reason why I'm so connected to this is that I had to go through the shock and to go through all those things. And emotionally, I'm still carrying that weight. And even though I'm a daily writer, I need shows like this that are going to say, hey, calm down, grow forward.
Yep. Sit still for a little while.
Right.
That's when, the best kind of material and stories come.
So how did the two of you collaborate? What's the story here? Because listeners are going to be tuning in going, okay, what's going on?
Dre, you want to take that away?
Yeah. So, in 2019, I had just come out with a show confronting O.J. Simpson. And Jen, I think that that's how you found our podcast company. You had just, you had gone through this. It had been, what, a year since, your husband was arrested, and you had found evidence of dozens and dozens of affairs with other women. And it's Jen was just trying to take the time and write her story down and try to make sense of what had happened to her. And Jen's a reality TV producer. We also do reality TV at Glass Entertainment Group. And so you had just found Confronting O.J. Simpson and liked the story and just reached out to us. And, I remember that call vividly of, Jen just opening up and saying, this is what happened to me. My husband was arrested for sexual assault of one of his high school students. I had found dozens of affairs, and I was just so shocked about this idea of the stranger beside you. They had known each other since college. She knew him well, and he just turned out to be a different person. It's just so devastating, and her whole reality was shattered. And so I wanted to take that story on. I could feel her grief, but knew she had fight and wanted to really make sense of what happened. And I knew she was on this mission to really understand who he was. She wanted to get a picture of who he was. And so I wanted to be on that journey with her. And so yeah, we've been working together since 2019.
So what's really interesting about this is that in most relationships, people will tell you, I knew what the snake was when I picked it up. You can't say that. This was a shock to you.
I'm telling you, and that's the biggest question that I get, and I understand why people ask. Like, are you sure there was not one little sign? But I can tell you, I don't have bad memories of my marriage. I thought I had a beautiful marriage and a beautiful relationship, and there really were no signs. And we talked to one expert that said it so simply: there are just some people out there that are that good.
My father.
Really?
Oh my God, 3 families. Come on. It was, and I've had to deal with that, and it's like, and I don't want to learn from that. And once again, that could be the undercut right there of why I'm so deep into this story, is because I want to understand this story so I can understand my own life, and I can't be the only one that's doing this.
That's right. That's right. Wow. And that's another reason for, I think, sharing this so publicly. I feel like this story happened to me for a reason, and there's a reason to share it with others, because sometimes you feel really alone unless you hear about something else somebody went through, or maybe that person can be encouraging because you've seen them, build back their life.
That's so interesting you say that, because it's almost like you tapped into Stephen Furtick at Elevation Church yesterday. He did a thing that was based on, this was the event, but now what is your decision? And you have the power of the decision to, what are you going to do with your event so that other people don't experience that event?
Such a good point, because what I didn't have a choice in was all the stuff that my ex was doing. He didn't give me a choice if I wanted to be in that relationship or not. So now, I think I'm, taking my choices back and letting my voice be heard.
Was there a side of you that said, I can fix him? Or is it, no, I'm out of here?
I don't think I ever thought that the marriage could be reconcilable. First of all, he had sex with a young girl, a student. That's right there is just unimaginable. So for that reason, but I think I did hope that maybe he had learned. He's in prison right now, and you'll hear in an upcoming episode, my interview with him, that I think it says a lot without saying too much about where he is right now with his life.
So Jennifer, when you create a podcast with this kind of empowerment, influence, as well as tragedy in it, there's no way you're going to stop at one podcast. Do you take this to other women or men who have gone through this now? Because and Andrea, you're a part of this as well. Where does this grow from? Because I was actually, when episode number 8 comes around, it's like, no, I don't want this to be over with yet.
I guess we'll see, Arrow. we're just kind of relishing in, how well the show is performing right now. I mean, we've been, again, like working on this since 2019, and we're all just so happy to kind of like celebrate how it's doing. So I guess we'll have those conversations in the coming weeks. But no current plans.
Let's talk about that 2019, because we're going to talk podcaster to podcaster here, because I mean one of the shows that I do on iHeartRadio is called Pod Crashing. It's about how to podcast, and the thing is that so many people, I mean millions of people, are creating podcasts in 10 minutes thinking they've got the giant of the show. Yeah. I'm so proud of you for saying that you've been working on this since 2019. That it is a process. It is a production.
Absolutely. I mean, it started with a phone call, and then we put together development materials, and iHeart was an incredible partner. I mean, they saw the, development materials and just understood what we wanted to do and gave us freedom and agency to make the show that we wanted. Because it's not just about a crime, it's also about emotion and understanding betrayal trauma. I mean, there's a lot of threads to this project, and they were such great partners, and it took a long time to get there. I mean, I think, Jen, you said it earlier, where it's just, we kind of gave it space and tried to figure out where we wanted to go. And Jen obviously was a very different version of herself in 2019. And I watched her grow. And that's part of the story. I've watched her handle this over the last few years, and that's evolved. And that's a huge part of what we're trying to tell, is that, these things can happen, but there is light at the end of the tunnel. Like, there is life that, to explore after these tragedies, after your marriage ends, and once you make peace with everything. So it had to take that long, to be honest.
How do you make sure that Spencer doesn't become a hero to those other secretive people?
Well, that's something I struggle with, because like I said, you'll hear from him in the last episode, and not to say too much, but I don't know that he quite understands the severity of his illness. And I'm calling it an illness. I'm not diagnosing it. There's something wrong. And I don't know that he knows the severity of that yet. So if he does, so putting this podcast out at least provides the other part of the truth. There's his truth, and then there's what really happened.
But also, I think you were saying this at the beginning of our conversation, Era. Like, one of the major things that we learned by doing this show is how many children in this country are affected by sexual misconduct of educators, and that was something that we wanted to explore, but didn't understand the gravity. I mean, we're talking about millions of kids a year are dealing with unwanted sexual advances or inappropriate conversations with educators. And so there's clearly something happening in our country where this is hitting the headlines. I mean, we have alerts all the time. You're seeing people arrested for this type of behavior. And so I can't really think about the people who see him as a hero. All I can think about is, how is our show educating people?
Right. And one of the things, because I do look at the analytics, I study the age groups, I study everything that happens with podcasting. And the one thing that I'm learning very quickly is that YA readers to just young adults, period, are tuning into podcasts. They're going to tap into this, but they're going to want a place to go to because they know a Spencer, or they're being trafficked themselves.
Yes.
And what better time right now, to launch this podcast? I mean, there's so much in the news, the celebrities get a lot of the attention and everything, but this is a reminder that there's those local celebrities too, that are out there and can be predators.
Is one of the reasons why you moved to Georgia, because once you started wearing the scarlet letter, it's like the community, even though they embraced you, you still got that look?
No, actually, I was living in Los Angeles when Spence and I re-met, and then moved to Georgia to marry him, for him. So I'm still in the same town that I moved to, and all my friends, like, I think they were going to come and tie me down if I tried to leave and go back to LA, but that never crossed my mind. This place its support system is so incredibly important.
Since we're both here in the South, we've got to have some Southern speak here, and I know listeners around the world will not understand this. So, do you do your barbecue with like a tomato base, or do you do vinegar? What are you doing with your
I'm
Southern
vinegar.
barbecue? Are you
Vinegar? Yeah, I'm from North Carolina, so I'm the vinegar. What about you?
Oh, well, I'm here in Charlotte, so I get both. I mean, I can
Oh,
I mean I
okay.
can go over there toward Winston Salem, or I can go up into Asheville
Yeah.
and get a completely different flavor.
Yeah.
So, how did you end up in Los Angeles from Carolina?
So after I graduated college, I wanted to get into television.
Yep.
And so, like all bright 20-something-year-olds move across the country with, the clothes on their back. And yeah, so I was out there for about 17 years and started a great career producing reality TV.
The two of you, then, since we now know that you've got a broadcasting background, podcasting is still on the edge of its birth, is what it is. Not a rebirth, but a physical birth. The way that you guys the journalism that podcasting is bringing, and the way that you have taken a true crime story away from a murder story, I love that you're growing in this direction.
Thank you. Yeah, obviously true crime is a major genre in podcasting, but there are crimes that don't end with a dead body.
Yeah.
There are people and victims that are out there that, Jen is a victim of her husband doing a really awful thing to a high school student. And then in addition, had affairs and betrayed her every day of their marriage. I mean, that is a story. And so we wanted to do something different,
How do you trust, Jen? I mean, and seriously, because I keep a defrag journal every day so I can break everything down. How do you learn to trust?
I really have faith in people. I always have. And I want to trust again. I really do. I don't have the mentality like, oh, I'll never be able to again. I'm just going to take it one step at a time and see how it goes. And of course, I might have some new warning signs that I'll look after. But I think my ex was a rare breed. I'm hoping I don't find one of those again.
We've talked about this a few times in this conversation. That is that we know that there was a dark spot in your life, but you have to change it. Do you become part of the community by way of being a political leader, or do you stand like we do in martial arts, stand on the sidelines so you can coach those that do have the ability to become political leaders?
That's a great question. I am slowly walking into the arena. Mm-hmm. We're still in the process of finishing up, like the last episode. So I'm not sure where it's taking me yet, but I just know that I've become so passionate about this and about getting messages out there and just, whether it's going to speak to high school students or something, I want to get in there and do this. Evan Rachel Wood, have you seen her show Phoenix Rising?
Oh man,
her documentary.
Oh, I need to watch that.
Oh my gosh, you'll love it's. Talk about a brave soul.
There's a lot of that. There is a lot of that. And to me, it's the binge watch and it's the binge listening. That tells me that people are physically listening. It's no longer about the song hook anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So now, so Andrea, you've personally watched Jennifer grow. I mean, I can't imagine being in the studio from producer to producer. You know how eyes speak. How has her eye shape changed during the process of creating these 8 episodes?
Well, I think at the very beginning, you were really raw, Jen. I mean, you were dealing with shock and then still grappling with the anger. And when I first met Jen in person, the first thing that I said to her when we sat down was, we will not produce this from a place of anger. Mm-hmm. We're producing this from a place of understanding. And we made that commitment to one another. And I think a part of this journey is like letting go, little by little, the anger for him and the people involved, and more so just trying to get an understanding of what happened to her life. Because you said, Jen, earlier, you didn't have a choice in all of that.
Right.
Wow. So it's really been just watching her walk away from that place of anger and growing and being, so comfortable in where she is today and putting that behind her. That's that's really been the growth and the trajectory.
Yeah. Well, Betrayal is definitely one of those podcasts. That's every reason why I continue to invest so much energy into it, because it's about reaching people. You've got to come back to this show anytime in the future. The two of you, please come back anytime.
Oh my God, would love to.
Let's
Thank
do
you.
it.
Well, you be brilliant today, okay? You be brilliant today.
You too. Thank you.